You know what absolutely grinds my gears? WWE had the audacity to let Roman Reigns and the Usos tear each other apart at Crown Jewel while The Rock sat backstage doing absolutely nothing. The so-called People's Champion watched his own family implode on the biggest stage, and guess what? He did nothing about it. But hold on, because what just happened backstage is going to blow your mind, and I'm telling you right now, if you click off this video, you're going to miss the most insane family confrontation in WWE history. Let me paint you a picture of what went down at Crown Jewel. Roman Reigns, the self-proclaimed tribal chief, the man who's been running WWE like his personal kingdom for over 3 years, finally came face to face with the consequences of his tyranny. The Usos, Jey and Jimmy, his own blood, stood across from him not as family, but as enemies. And where was The Rock? Where was the man who claims the bloodline legacy means everything to him? He was nowhere to be found when it mattered most. The crowd in Saudi Arabia watched in absolute horror as Jey Uso superkicked Roman with tears streaming down his face. They witnessed Jimmy Uso torn between loyalty and liberation. They saw a family dynasty crumble in real time, and the Great One did absolutely nothing to prevent it. But here's where it gets interesting, and trust me, you need to hear every single word of what I'm about to tell you. Before we continue, drop in the comments, do you think The Rock was right to stay out of family business, or should he have intervened months ago? Crown Jewel wasn't just another premium live event. It was supposed to be a celebration of wrestling excellence, a showcase of the best talent WWE has to offer. Instead, it became a warzone where the bloodline saga reached its breaking point, and honestly, it was painful to watch. Roman Reigns walked into that arena with the confidence of a man who believed his grip on power was unshakable. He spent years manipulating his cousins, gaslighting them into believing that loyalty to the tribal chief was the only path forward. He made them acknowledge him. He made them bend the knee. He turned 2 of the most talented tag team wrestlers in the world into his personal enforcers. But power built on fear and manipulation? That's a house of cards waiting to collapse, and collapse it did. Jey Uso's Rebel Lion wasn't just about wrestling. It was about reclaiming his identity, his self-respect, his very soul that Roman had systematically stripped away week after week, month after month. When Jey finally said no more, when he finally chose himself over the tribal chief's tyranny, it wasn't just a betrayal, it was liberation. Poor Jimmy was caught in the crossfire, torn between his twin brother and his cousin, between what's right and what's familiar. The internal conflict written across his face told a story more powerful than any promo could deliver. And the match itself? Brutal doesn't even begin to describe it. These men didn't just wrestle, they fought. They poured every ounce of pain, every moment of resentment, every second of suppressed rage into that ring. Superkicks that looked like they could decapitate. Spears that seemed designed to break ribs. A Superman punch that carried the weight of 3 years of psychological abuse. The crowd didn't know whether to cheer or cry. Social media exploded with reactions. Wrestling journalists scrambled to put the pieces together. And through it all, one question echoed louder than any other: where is The Rock? Quick question, who do you think was the real villain of the bloodline story? Drop your answer below. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. The Rock's absence wasn't accidental, and it certainly wasn't because he doesn't care. Sources close to the situation reveal something far more calculated, far more strategic than anyone expected. The Rock has been watching every betrayal, every manipulation, every time Roman crossed a line. He's been monitoring the situation from Hollywood, from his business meetings, from his film sets, and he made a conscious decision, a decision that some might call cold, others might call wise. He decided to let Roman Reigns face the consequences of his own actions. Think about it. The Rock could have returned months ago. He could have walked into SmackDown, delivered one rock bottom, and restored order to the bloodline. But would that have solved anything? Would that have taught Roman the lesson he desperately needed to learn? Absolutely not. By staying away, The Rock forced Roman to confront the reality he created. A reality where fear doesn't equal respect. Where power gained through manipulation is ultimately unstable. Where family bonds can only be stretched so far before they snap completely. The Rock understood something crucial. Sometimes the greatest act of love is allowing someone to fall so they can learn to stand on their own. But here's what nobody saw coming. The Crown Jewel disaster wasn't the end of The Rock's plan. It was the beginning. Because while everyone was focused on the carnage in Saudi Arabia, The Rock was already planning his return. Not as a savior, not as a judge, but as the final piece of a puzzle that would either heal the bloodline or destroy it forever. Backstage sources confirmed that immediately after Crown Jewel, The Rock contacted WWE officials with a single message: it's time. Here's where everything changes. Here's the moment that's going to define the next chapter of WWE programming. 3 days after Crown Jewel, at the SmackDown tapings, something unprecedented happened. The Rock walked into the arena unannounced. No pyrotechnics, no entrance music, no cameras initially rolling. Just the Great One, walking through those backstage corridors with purpose and determination. He requested a private meeting, not just with Roman, not just with the Usos, but with all of them, together, in the same room, for the first time since the family fractured. Imagine the tension. Imagine Jey Uso, still nursing bruises from Crown Jewel, standing across from Roman Reigns. Imagine Jimmy, still conflicted, trying to figure out where he stands. Imagine Roman, his ego bruised more than his body, facing the one man whose opinion actually matters to him. And in the middle of it all, the people's champion, the Brahma Bull, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment, according to someone who was in that room. And yes, details are leaking despite WWE's best efforts to keep this under wraps. The Rock didn't immediately take sides. He didn't hug anyone. He didn't throw punches. He simply stood there, let the silence hang in the air, and then he spoke. I've watched this family tear itself apart on television, and I stayed silent. Not because I didn't care, but because you needed to feel the full weight of what you've become. Those words were reportedly directed at Roman, whose face apparently showed the first crack in his armor of arrogance. But then the Rock turned to the Usos. And you too, you think Rebel Lion makes you free? You think destroying your cousin heals your wounds? Family problems require family solutions, not public warfare. If you were in the Rock's position, what would you say to fix this family? Comment your response. What happened next is the part that has the entire WWE universe buzzing. The Rock didn't come back to take sides. He came back to lay down the law, bloodline law. He reportedly gave them an ultimatum that nobody saw coming. Here's what insiders are saying: The Rock proposed one final match. Not at a random SmackDown. Not at a mid-tier premium live event. At WrestleMania, the biggest stage of them all. But here's the twist: it won't be the traditional match everyone expects. The Rock is calling for a family reckoning match. The rules: every member of the bloodline who's been part of this saga enters the ring. Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, Jimmy Uso, Solo Psycho, and yes, even The Rock himself. But it's not about winning or losing. It's about resolution. The match only ends when one of two things happens: either the family reconciles in the middle of that ring with a symbolic gesture of unity, or one member is definitively exiled from the bloodline forever. Bloodline rights stripped, legacy denied, name removed from the family tree. The stakes? Higher than any championship. This is about identity. This is about legacy. This is about whether the Anoa'i family dynasty continues or crumbles into dust. Roman's reported response: initial resistance followed by grudging acceptance. Why? Because deep down, Roman knows that The Rock is the only person whose judgment he'll truly respect. Jey's response? Emotional conflict. He wants justice for years of abuse, but he also craves family reconciliation. The idea of permanent exile terrifies him as much as it empowers him. Jimmy? He apparently broke down, admitting he's tired of being torn between the two sides he loves most. And Solo Psycho? The wild card in all of this. His loyalty has been unwavering to Roman, but even he recognizes that The Rock's word is law in the bloodline hierarchy. Let's talk about what this means for WWE's future, because this isn't just a storyline, this is a movement. The Rock's return completely reshapes the WrestleMania landscape. We were already looking at a stacked card, but now, this becomes the emotional centerpiece of the entire weekend. This becomes the match that casual fans and die-hard wrestling purists alike will tune in to watch. Think about the promotional material. Think about the video packages showing the entire bloodline saga from beginning to end. Think about the interviews, the build-up, the speculation about who will reconcile and who will be exiled. WWE's creative team now has months to craft the most emotionally resonant storyline in modern wrestling history. This isn't about flips and submission holds, though those will be present. This is about generational trauma, toxic masculinity, the price of ambition, and the possibility of redemption. And here's something most people aren't considering: The Rock's involvement legitimizes this storyline in the mainstream media. When The Rock is involved, ESPN covers it. When The Rock is involved, Good Morning America discusses it. When The Rock is involved, wrestling transcends its traditional boundaries and becomes cultural conversation. The financial implications alone are staggering. WrestleMania ticket sales will skyrocket. Peacock subscriptions will surge. Merchandise featuring The Rock and the Bloodline will fly off shelves. This is the kind of crossover appeal that WWE has been chasing since The Rock's last major run. Who do you think will end up being exiled from the Bloodline by WrestleMania? Make your prediction in the comments. But beyond the business, beyond the spectacle, there's a profound emotional truth at the core of this story that resonates with anyone who has family. We've all experienced family dysfunction. We've all dealt with relatives who manipulate, who guilt trip, who use love as a weapon. We've all faced the painful decision of whether to maintain toxic family relationships or cut ties for our own well-being. The Bloodline saga isn't just wrestling fiction, it's a mirror reflecting real family dynamics. Roman Reigns represents that family member who demands respect without earning it, who confuses fear with love. Jey Uso embodies the person who finally finds the courage to say enough. Jimmy represents those caught in the middle, loving both sides but unable to fix either. And The Rock is the elder who's seen enough, who carries enough wisdom to know that some battles must be fought, some lessons must be learned the hard way, and some families need structured intervention rather than blind loyalty. The genius of this storyline is that there's no clear villain anymore. Roman did terrible things, but he's also a product of legacy pressure and the weight of carrying a family name. Jey's rebel lion is justified, but his methods have been destructive. The Rock's absence was strategic, but it also allowed suffering to continue longer than necessary. This is complex, nuanced storytelling that treats the audience with intelligence and respect. This is wrestling at its absolute finest, when the physical combat becomes a metaphor for emotional and psychological warfare we all understand. As we head toward WrestleMania, one thing is certain: the Bloodline will never be the same. Whether they emerge united or permanently fractured, whether Roman finds redemption or falls into exile, whether the Usos reclaim their brotherhood or go their separate ways, this story will define legacies. The Rock didn't just return to settle a dispute. He returned to determine the future of the most dominant faction in modern WWE history. He returned to prove that even in wrestling, even in sports entertainment, family matters above all else. So Wrestling Zone 1 family, that's where we stand. The Rock is back. The Bloodline faces its reckoning, and WrestleMania just became unmissable. What do you want to see happen at WrestleMania? Full reconciliation or permanent exile? Let me know in the comments below. Smash that like button if this video got you hyped, and subscribe for more WWE breaking news and analysis. The road to WrestleMania just got very, very interesting. Until next time, acknowledge the chaos, embrace the drama, and remember, in wrestling, family is everything, until it isn't.